Part of it was Elfrid Payton dishing out 21 assists, but the Pelicans' loss to the Indiana Pacers felt different. I'll tell you why and what we saw in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans and NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, available wherever you get your podcasts and available on YouTube. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, credential member of the media, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. Here with y'all after the Pelicans lose to the Indiana Pacers 114-110. Good fight from them in this game, falling just short, but there were some really standout performances, particularly from Elfrid Payton. 21 freaking assists, y'all. Yves Missi with some incredible game-changing plays. Trey Murphy struggled at the end, but seemed to find his footing in this one, and I think you're about to see a good season from him. We're going to break it all down in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans, along with some good injury news as well. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is sponsored by Built. Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA. That's joinbilt.com/LockedOnNBA to get started. And of course, thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen. Today and every day, we're here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast coming to you like nobody else does. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Join over 10,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. And become an everydayer. That means you listen Monday through Friday to Locked On Pelicans. And don't forget the daily, now free, Locked On Pelicans newsletter. You can sign up for that over at LockedOnDaily.com. So let's get into this one. This game felt different. We'll get into the big performances here, but this team looked and played differently, and that was largely because they had a true point guard running the show. This game justifies them trading for Dejounte Murray, even giving up Dyson Daniels and some of the other depth, including Najee Marshall in that, because you saw what a game changer it is. This game felt different when they were making their runs. They were playing with pace. They were moving the ball. They had 35 assists in this game. They just didn't shoot the three ball particularly well or take enough threes. But overall, they played well enough to win. They were in position to win the game. And they did this still without Zion Williamson, no Brandon Ingram in this one, no Dejounte Murray, no Herb Jones. They did get CJ McCollum back. We'll talk about him a little bit later in the show. There were some mistakes from Willie Green, but also some good things from Willie Green. But the big story of this night was Elfrid Payton. This guy was out of the league for almost 900 days, something like that. I don't know what the exact number is. 14 points, 21 assists, and 7 rebounds. He was freaking fantastic in this game for the New Orleans Pelicans. They've needed a point guard. They've said they needed a point guard. Everyone who basically watched the team last season said they needed a point guard. They needed a point guard. They went out, they got a point guard in Dejounte Murray, then he got hurt. They signed Elfrid Payton a little bit later. Hold on to that thought in a second here. And look at what a difference that makes for this team. They played with force. They played with pace, speed, all of those things that you want to see. You saw Elfrid Payton open things up for Yves Missi by getting him on lobs, finding Trey Murphy on open three-point shots, finding CJ McCollum on cuts towards the basket. He was orchestrating the offense. They've needed someone like this. One of the reasons they traded for Dejounte Murray, and this was said by David Griffin and others, is basically if Zion went down, they thought Dejounte Murray could step up and lead the team and at least orchestrate the offense. So you don't have your centerpiece in Zion. At least we have a guy that can create open looks and open shots and pull the strings on offense for other guys. And we think we'll be able to keep going forward if Zion's not playing. Basically, in a sense, Dejounte Murray was insurance for Zion Williamson. Well, they're without Zion Williamson now, so they could use a point guard to do all of those things that they wanted. They've been without that essentially all season until like a couple of games ago when they started Elfrid Payton after signing him. And he was with them in training camp. This was someone that was around the team in Summer League too. He's been around the team for a while, but he was dealing with injuries. Will Guillory, who was a guest on the show last week of The Athletic, said that on here. They would have signed him sooner. They would have signed him over Jalen Noel if he had been healthy. He's finally healthy. They signed him, and look at what a difference it makes. What a freaking cool story. Look, if I want you to take away one thing from this, it's just that was awesome. Look, this team is 10 games under 500. The chances of them making the postseason is very slim. Even the play-in tournament, truthfully, might be out of reach. Let's just enjoy the moment and be happy for Elfrid Payton, a local guy from New Orleans, going out and playing like that. And probably should be on the roster the rest of the season. More on that in the third segment here. But he was really good in this game, and you saw it. 35 assists, 21 coming from Elfrid Payton on the night. Payton also only had 5 turnovers in this. For a guy who was handling the ball constantly, he had excellent efficiency when it came to this. Now, there were some little things here and there, but for a guy that's somewhat rusty, let's call it, I thought he played absolutely awesome. Here's the stat that will jump out at you. And look, Indiana shot a lot of threes. You had that with Tyrese Halliburton. You saw a mistake late in the game when they went under on a 3 for Tyrese Halliburton. And you just was like, cool, you're going to give me space. I'm going to shoot the 3. And he nailed it. The Pelicans won the points in the paint battle. They have not been doing that regularly at all. And early in this game, Indiana was sealing their man off down low with Miles Turner and others, basically any of their bigs. They would kick the ball in down low. There would be a mismatch there, and they could score basically at will, whether at the rim or by kicking it out and finding an open three-pointer. So for New Orleans to have won the points in the paint battle says something here. Part of that is the way they were playing, and it has to do with Elfrid Payton finding those guys on cuts. Look at how many uncontested layups guys like CJ McCollum and others had because they just cut into the paint when their defender fell asleep. Look at Yves Missi going up for lobs, or Elfrid Payton just finding him down low by throwing guys off with his eyes and things like that. It was a pretty masterful performance, in my opinion. It's a shame it happened in a loss. And yes, I'm as tired of moral victories as you are, but something was different about this. And this is one of those where it's like, okay, it's not just that they tried hard and they kept it close, and that's great. And there's something to be said for that. This was like, oh, you put all the pieces together, there's something there. It was like, this is the game that reminds you of like, oh yeah, we were excited about this Pelicans season for a reason. And a lot of that has to do with Elfrid Payton. What an unbelievable story. Just a really cool night. Was more or less the talk of the league for a night here. For a guy that had been out of the league for that long, that's a pretty incredible thing. But Yves Missi also played well. Trey Murphy played well too. I want to look at those two guys coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans, because Yves Missi in particular, there were a couple of eye-opening things he did. We're going to break that down. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by Built. If you're a renter, I'd start taking advantage of Built if I were you. Here's the thing. We earn points on groceries, travel, and practically everything else that we buy, but we should also be earning points on rent, one of our biggest monthly expenses. Built changed the game by letting renters earn high-value points on rent and around their neighborhood. There's no cost to join Built, and as a member, you're going to earn valuable points on rent in your everyday spending. And Built points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, and even the ones you haven't heard of. There are over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world you can redeem with your Built points. So points can also be redeemed towards a future rent payment and unique experiences that only Built members can access. So if you're not earning points on rent, my question is, why not? Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonnba. Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba to start earning points on your rent payments today. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.2 APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth, and these generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply for specific product disclosures. Visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Join over 10,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. And now for your second listen, it's actually reading with the Locked On Pelicans daily newsletter. Go to lockedondaily.com. Scroll down till you see the Locked On Pelicans logo and then just sign up. It's one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at lockedondaily.com. That's lockedondaily.com and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Pelicans newsletter. Or if you're watching right now, you can see the little QR code. There we go. I can do this right there to sign up for it. So let's keep talking about the Pelicans losing to the Indiana Pacers. Yeah, look, we're sick of moral victories, but eventually you hope they will translate into wins. This is one of those games that goes, oh, they're going to get some wins, which makes the tanking conversation really interesting. I don't think they have a chance at a top 6 seed at this point. Maybe they do. I don't really see it. I think it'll be really tough for them to even get to the play-in tournament when you're now 10 games under 500. You are 4-14. But they're going to win games, and that can actually be maybe not a bad thing for this team. So losing 114-110 as a moral victory is annoying, but there are good things to take away that are going to impact this season and next season and subsequent seasons too. And one of those is Yves Missi. He was awesome in this game. I'm not entirely sure why he didn't start. Missed the last game, sure, against the Golden State Warriors, but Daniel Theis ain't it. Daniel Theis was a -30 in almost 17 minutes of action starting out there. And he was bad. Didn't really give you anything on offense, gave you absolutely nothing defensively, got 1 rebound, and that was it. -30 in, let's call it 17 minutes is pretty nuts. It's almost like you're getting outscored by 2 every single minute you're out there on the court. That ain't good. Yves Missi, by comparison, stepped in and made an immediate impact in this game and on this team. He was a +26 on the night. And the eye test, the feeling test, checks out with that. That's a 56-point swing between those two players. That's bonkers. Daniel Theis was a -24 in the first half. Yves Missi was a +22. It's a polar opposite during that stretch. Yves Missi should have been starting. And look, Willie Green didn't start him, but credit to him. Love that. He started him in the second half, and there was every reason why he should have done that. Yves Missi was a difference maker in this game. Look, you get a point guard that can pass, and you pair him with a rim running big, and you go, oh. Couple lobs to Yves Missi right off the bat. Finding him down low, Missi with good hands can catch the ball, go up for it. That was a really important thing, I think, to see in this game. I like them not playing a guy like Trey Jemison in this one and kind of sticking with the shortened rotation. They more or less just ran 9 guys in this one. I thought that was smart and the proper thing to do. He was good. 2 blocks, including a multitude of other times when he forced misses and forced the Indiana Pacers to change their shot arc and things like that. That was great. 13 rebounds from him as well. 4 offensive, 9 defensive. The team needs to go after those second chance points. They did that pretty well in this game, outscoring the Indiana Pacers 12-6 in that regard. He's a game changer, folks. Like, he really is. Look, he's raw. He's going to grow. You could use a more elite guy overall because you need some scoring from the center position, I think, at a higher level. But Missi will grow into that. 16 points, 13 boards, 2 blocks, 2 steals. There's times when he just gets the ball and rips it out of an opponent's hand. He is not a fouling liability down low like we thought he was going to be, like he showed in Summer League and in that first preseason game. 3 fouls going against, a pretty strong center in Miles Turner is a great night. Turner, who had a lot of trouble in this one, it felt like, too, minus some of the shooting that he had. So to see Missi play like that, and now with Elfrid Payton and Dejounte Murray returning, there's always going to basically be a point guard out there on the court. that's a really encouraging sign. That's why this game makes you feel like this is something that they can carry forward. If Missi is unlocked like this with a point guard, and now you're going to have a point guard every time he's out there on the court, that's really encouraging that he's going to be able to have a hugely positive impact on this team whenever he's out there on the court. And you're already seeing it a little bit with the way that he played tonight and the way that he's played as the season has gone on. This is going to end up being a very good draft pick, it feels like, for the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, he's going to need to make his free throws. He was 2 of 6. The team was totally atrocious in that regard, 11 for 19. That's under 60% from the charity stripe here. You've got to do better than that, but he's a rookie. We're not going to hold him to something like that. That's not the expectation for him here. You know, it was Trey missing free throws that really, really sank the team overall. So to see the way that he played makes you go, oh yeah, like that's a center that can probably play next to Zion Williamson. And I'm going to be really excited to see whenever it is that Zion returns, what that looks like. Because look, Zion's going to return. He's going to play. Well, we hope he's going to return, that he's going to play. Or maybe you don't. But if that's the reality of the situation, I want to see these two together, because if they're going to maybe keep Zion Williamson next season, and I don't think anything's determined just yet, well, these two are going to probably be starting together, and you want them to play well together. And Missi's showing like he should be a big that can play next to Zion Williamson. Trey Murphy had an interesting game, I thought, too. He was good. When you looked at the starters here, the only 2 of the 5 that were positive on the night was Elfrid Payton and Trey Murphy. 24 points for Trey. He's been playing progressively better since returning from his hamstring injury. 9 of 19 from the field. 2 of 11 from 3 is a little bit rough. 4 of 7 from the free throw line is a little bit rough. He picked up what looked like a calf injury or something like that in this game too. 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. But overall, he was good. He did miss 4 looks from 3 at the late in the game that really could have tied it or given the Pelicans a lead, and that's rough. And that makes this one feel like it was a missed opportunity for New Orleans. But he's been playing better. You know, he's kind of going through preseason right now. And now it seems like he's shaking some of that rust off. What you saw from him in this game was very encouraging overall. One of my concerns about him has been his handle. And yeah, he can dunk. We know he can dunk. He's very capable, of doing that. And when he attacks the basket, he can dunk on you. But the problem is if someone usually steps in the way, he doesn't have a move to get around him. He doesn't kind of have like another game plan of like, what do I do now? He did in this game. You saw him moving around guys. You saw him really attacking the basket in a very smart, kind of composed manner in a way that we did not see from him last year. And then it also allowed him to yam on people a couple of times too, and that's always a good thing. But he was really good in this game. Don't just focus on the missed shots at the end. Look at the whole complete game here. If Brandon Ingram plays, does New Orleans win this? And the answer is probably yes. You get Herb Jones or Dejounte Murray, one of those guys in this. Do you win? And the answer is probably yes. Trey was a big part of that, just being an offensive threat. One of the things to look at is they don't want him to get the ball at all. Trey is on the scouting report for the opponents, and they desperately do not want him to touch the ball because they're scared of him scoring in any way. That opens things up for others. When you pair that with Elfrid Payton, that's a really good sign too. And so you saw this team really succeed when you had Elfrid Payton, Trey Murphy III, and Yves Missi out there on the court. All guys that are threats in some capacity. More threats on the court, tougher to defend, especially with someone who can pass like Elfrid Payton was doing. And look at what it did. They looked like a different team. They played like a different team in this game. And that's a really encouraging thing. On the coaching here, before we get to Dejounte Murray coming back and CJ McCollum's return in this one, we'll look at CJ. I thought he had an interesting game as well. Overall, pretty good, though. I was pretty pleased with what we saw from CJ in this one, especially kind of coming back from 13 straight games missed. You saw some up and down with the coaching here. You did see some tactical adjustments, which got the Pelicans back in. They were down early to the Indiana Pacers. They were down by as many as, I want to say, 17 points in the first half. Clawed back to really have themselves be right in it when it came to the second quarter and only be down 2 points. They switched to a zone defense, which got them right back in it. We've seen the Pelicans throw zone out at other times throughout the season, and it seems to get some stops and get New Orleans back in the game. That's a really encouraging sign, in my opinion, when you're watching this team play. Willie Green knowing when to go to that zone defense. You know, I don't love some of the substitutions late in the game when you took out Elfrid Payton, Trey Murphy, Yves Missi. You need to kind of keep your best players out there on the court. And maybe Payton can't play 36 minutes. Maybe you don't trust Yves Missi to do that. But you could get their minutes up a little bit here, I think, and could have kept him out there a minute or two longer. Would that have changed the complexity of the game here? And I think the answer to that could have been yes. So there's room to grow there. But you also saw him start Yves Missi after halftime, and that was the correct move, and didn't really see Daniel Theis again after that, which was also the correct move when it came to that. So the coaching was a bit of a mixed bag, but they played more like probably they want this team to play. And I really do think a point guard is just hugely important to this squad. And good news, they're getting Dejounte Murray back on Wednesday. I hinted at this in yesterday's show. Let's talk about what he's going to bring to the team, what it kind of means for Elfrid Payton going forward. We'll also look at CJ McCollum as well and his return in this one. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by Skims. When I found out Skims was making underwear for men, I have to admit I was pretty excited. My fiance has been buying Skims for a while now and is always raving about how comfortable their underwear is. So I knew they were going to come through with their men's stuff. And look, y'all, they delivered. When was the last time you kind of rethought your underwear? Look, I'm busy during the day. I've got jobs to do. I like to go work out. I always have time to completely do outfit changes and things like that. So sometimes you just need a boxer brief that's going to kind of fit everything. And honestly, the Skims 5-inch stretch boxer brief is really what it is. They feel great when I'm working out. It feels great when I'm walking the dogs or running to and from meetings. I travel a lot. I'm getting on a plane on Sunday, right? It's comfortable on a 4 or 5 hour plane flight. The bunch of Skims did me well on a 4-day drive from Los Angeles to New Orleans when you're just stuck in a car, you're getting hot, a little bit sweaty there, right? Felt good, very breathable, nothing's riding up. It's just comfort all around, and that's why I love these. So shop Skims Men's at skims.com/lockedonnba. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. And if you're looking for the perfect holiday gifts for the whole family, Skims just launched their biggest holiday shop ever, also available at skims.com/lockedonnba. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Join over 10,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. And for a second listen, Saints off their bye week. What's it going to look like going into the stretch run of the season here, like second half of the season? Locked On Saints, making sense of everything black and gold. The Saints changed their schedule this week. Does that mean bigger moves or changes are coming? Ross Jackson of Locked On Saints is going to make sense of it all. Go make them your second listen today. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let me know, did you feel, in the comments down below, did you feel this game was different? Did you feel like, or think or feel that this was different? Because it did to me. Let me know what you think, or just let me know how happy you are for Elfrid Payton and the performance that he had in this game. CJ McCollum returned in this one too, and I thought overall he was pretty good. 23 points on 9 of 20 shooting, 3 of 10 from deep, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, just 2 turnovers. He was clearly kind of getting into the flow of the game. But one thing that I thought he did well, and it just shows you how much they need a point guard. That's what a lot of this segment's going to be here. Right? Get CJ off ball. Let him do other things. And he got to do that in this. How many times did he cut to the basket and just get an easy pass from Elfrid Payton and then just score at the rim? He did that a bunch. He went 3 of 4 in the restricted area in this game, basically all because of the point guard work that Elfrid Payton did. CJ McCollum should not be your point guard, and too often here in New Orleans, he's been forced into that role, and they had high hopes that he could play that way too. But it's very clear that he's more of an off-ball 2 guard like that. Having a point guard just allows him to kind of be that version of him. He couldn't really do that last year, couldn't really do that the year before. Now with Elfrid Payton and Dejounte Murray coming back, he's capable of doing that. The shooting will come as he gets back into the flow. He missed a 3 right at the end, a 3 before that too. The Pelicans had a number of good looks that they just couldn't hit. But those tend to fall for CJ McCollum. He shot above 40% last year. He was really good from three. They need a guy like this to take those threes and be a threat from three, because otherwise it's more or less just Trey Murphy. Hawkins wasn't great in this, played very limited minutes, only took 3 threes, went 1 of 5, and was bad defensively, I thought. So you need CJ to be out there and making his impact felt, and I think you're going to start to see that because of the point guard. It's great to see him back. 13 games missed in a row is pretty rough to come back from. To score over 20 in that first game and really keep this team in it until the very end and kind of play your role perfectly, that's what you want to see. Again, this feels like it means wins are going to come. You're all sick of moral victories. I'm sick of moral victories, but those moral victories can turn into wins, and it feels like New Orleans might be on the precipice of getting some of those. Probably on Wednesday, hopefully on Wednesday, I shouldn't say probably, as Dejounte Murray is returning against the Toronto Raptors. That is a really exciting thing, and for a variety of reasons. One, I'm excited because it's City Edition night. Going to get those purple Pierre hats that I told you all about. A little scoop there. And the City Edition jerseys on the City Edition court. This is going to be a lot of fun. And you're playing a team that you should beat. The Toronto Raptors are playing better, but New Orleans is going to have enough talent to be able to win this game. I'm not saying they will, but they have enough talent to win it. Now Dejounte Murray comes back, and he should be able to get a full allotment of minutes or pretty close to it. Broken hand doesn't really impact your conditioning and those things a ton. And it's nice to see him return almost ahead of schedule, it feels like, or right around the schedule. This is going to be important. As I said earlier in the show, a couple times, you're going to have a point guard on the court the whole game. Between him and Elfrid Payton, you're going to have a point guard on the court the whole game. When was the last time we were able to say that about the Pelicans? When was the last time we were like two true point guards going to be out there on the court? Jose's in that mix, in that running, but a little bit different than Elfrid Payton and some of the other players that we've seen here. So I am very excited to see what he does. We should hopefully have Brandon Ingram back, and that means your starting lineup is going to look something like Dejounte Murray, CJ, Brandon Ingram, Trey Murphy, Yves Missi. Like that's a starting five, y'all. That is a starting five. And that's one that should be able to compete with a lot of other teams. They need that. Now, they might be on the precipice of wins. I don't know if it'll necessarily get them into the playoffs, but you do want to see this team compete. There's just too much talent here where they're not going to be bad, and I don't think you're going to really have like a good excuse to just shut guys down unless other injuries occur. And look, we don't want that. We don't want that at all. So I want to see them start winning games. I want to be covering wins, talking about the things that they are doing well other than just effort and being oh so close. And I think we're pretty close to that. I'm excited for this game the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Well, of course, there will be a show on Thursday. We'll probably have a show on Friday for y'all as well. Really want to cover a bunch of different things here. So I'm planning on having a show every day this week for y'all. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited for this game. If you're going on Wednesday, I'll have the Locked On Pelicans stickers with me. Come say hi if you're an everydayer. Shout it out at me and we'll come chat with y'all. It's a lot of fun meeting everyone in the Smoothie King Center. So that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Pelicans. 21 freaking assists for Elfrid Payton, y'all. That was cool. As always, I'm your host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. This is the Locked On Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Be back with y'all tomorrow.